Well, Happy New Year everybody. It's Jan 1st and Rolex have put their prices up. Of course they have. No shock there. To save you the effort, the average price increase is around 4.5%. A black steel sub went from like 8,650 to 9K. A steel Daytona went from 12,700 to 13,200. So generally speaking, for the steel sports models, the increase is like £300–500, a bit more for the precious metal items. In this video, I want to take a look back in time. I'm going to come at this from a completely different angle. So I had a look at the increase of Rolex prices over the last 10 years compared to other stuff in our lives. The finds were quite interesting. So here, take a look. So from left to right on this graph, you have the percentage price increase of fuel, the UK salary, a pint of beer, Freddo, Bluesy, a sub, the housing market, a steel Daytona, gold, and the S&P 500. You can take from this whatever you like. The Rolex watches sit somewhat in the middle, maybe leaning towards the right hand side where the other luxury, non-essential stuff sits, right? And then you have the essential stuff like beer and chocolate to the left. But you know, it seems that the Rolex price increase over the last 10 years has been justified against other asset classes, right? Do we agree? I think the only thing that maybe seems a bit shocking on this graph is the UK salary. If you're on a UK company payroll and you're looking at this thinking, 28.5% increase in salary over the last 10 years, that doesn't look good, especially compared to stuff that we buy that's way, way higher, like way over double. With this historical data in mind, as a fun little exercise, I've taken these three watches, the black steel sub, the bluesy two-tone, and the steel Daytona. And what I did was look at the retail price of these watches back in 2014, so 10 years ago, and then extrapolated out to 2034 what the price of these watches will be in 10 years time, and this is what I found. Now, this is purely based on past data and what we know has happened, so these prices in 10 years might not be accurate. However, it's interesting to see that a basic black steel sub-date would cost £14,000, a bluesy £21,000, and a steel Panda Daytona would cost £22,000 if the price increases at the same rate as it did over the last 10 years. It sounds completely outrageous, right? But let's not forget what we were all paying for these watches on the grey market like a year and a half, 2 years ago. It would be very interesting to use this video as a reference point in 10 years time to see what the prices of Rolexes are actually going to be. But you know, just looking at this and doing this exercise, it just doesn't seem feasible for Rolex to increase the price every single year for the next 10 years because these prices are insane. And I know money changes and the value of money changes, right? But it was strange. But I mean, here, I have a story, right? So 10 years ago, I lived in Leeds in the north of England and I was offered a black, I think it was a sub no day, and it was about 4.5K at the time. And I thought back then, that's way too much money. It's ridiculous. Obviously hindsight and all that. Now here we are sat in 2024 and the watch is almost 100% more expensive. But that always happens. It happens with watches, it happens with the housing market and Bitcoin, whatever, you know, your vices. But with this information in mind, it did have me thinking, why do Rolex increase the price of their watches? Well, I have a short and a long answer for that. The long answer is because of inflation. What is inflation? It's basically the price increase in stuff that we buy in our everyday lives. And that basically means that money is therefore a depreciating asset. And that's also why people say that you shouldn't keep money in the bank, because over a period of time, the value of money goes down, it depreciates. Inflation rates have a bad connotation. It suggests doom and gloom, but generally speaking, if inflation rates are moderate year on year, it can be a good thing for the economy. It keeps businesses profitable, and if you've got an asset like a Rolex or a house or gold, it can be a good thing for you because the price over time goes up. Okay, another little experiment just for the fun of it. So as we know, back in 2014, the price of a steel sub was 5.7K. So let's see what 5.7K is in today's money. So I'm gonna go on this like inflation calculator here. Okay, so a 5.7K sub back in 2014 would now cost you 7.5K, which actually isn't too far off if we compare the price increase of the Rolex sub now, which is £9,000. Okay. This basically means that Rolex have increased the price of their watches faster than the rate of inflation. If you have £5,700 in the year, okay, 1209, in today's money you'd have 9 million, wow, almost 8 figures, okay. Back in 1209, King John was in power, and apparently his net worth was 5 million USD. That's just insane that someone's net worth back then, 800 years ago, someone's net worth was 5 mil. Anyway, back to why Rolex put their prices up. Well, The cost of Rolex has increased by a lot year on year. The machinery, the cost of staff to pay their employees, utility bills, this all goes up year on year. And the reason why Rolex put their prices up is because when costs go up, to make sure that they're making profit year on year, they have to put the prices up so that their revenue goes up, so that year on year, you know, they're making money, basically. Let's not forget though, Rolex is not run by a board of directors that are profit hungry. Nope, they are a non-profit organization. Yes, I'm sure they want to grow the business, but their aim is not to increase the stock price or to make the most amount of profit possible. So it's interesting that they do choose to do this year on year, but maybe it's just to cover costs, or is it? Absolutely not, because if you look at their balance sheet, if you look at their financial report, they will consistently make a hell of a lot more profit every single year. And my short answer for why Rolex increase their prices pretty much every single year is because they can. We are still gonna buy their watches, no matter what, right? So what does it matter? Well, as a market observation that I've had, it's funny I say that because I see ADs now offering precious metal watches like Sky Dwellers, Yacht Masters, even subs, and people aren't buying them. People aren't buying them like they were last year or 2 years ago, and the reason for that is because they now trade under retail price. Why buy a white gold Submariner and lose £7,000-8,000 on it? You just wouldn't do it unless you're desperate for the watch and you actually genuinely love the watch. But yeah, I think ADs are really struggling. They're having a really tough time to sell watches that used to fly out the vault. So very interesting market observation. If you are getting offered these watches and you want them, it's fantastic. Honestly, it's amazing. But if you're looking to flip, and I don't care if you want to do that, it's not a good time to be flipping. But this does also make me think, the better that the secondary market does, the better authorized dealers do. And the better authorized dealers do, the better Rolex will do. So does that mean that the watch market is controlled by grey market dealers? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Do you know what? They probably do have quite a heavy hand in the success. I would say that, but just interesting that ADs are not doing as well. In any case, what I see happening over time, if Rolex do continue to put their prices up year on year, is that the younger audiences are going to be priced out of buying a Rolex. A steel Submariner is now £9,000. That is insane. It's a lot of money. Yes, Rolex is a luxury brand, and these are non-essential products to our everyday lives. They are purely material. Yes, they tell the time, but who really cares? But if the only people that can afford a Rolex are the wealthy, the successful, and the older generations, I'm not sure how future-proof the Rolex brand will be in terms of selling these products, because the youngsters are the future, right? So it's just interesting. But anyway, speaking of the secondary market, I wonder how the Rolex price increases are impacting the secondary market. I suppose it seems like it will somewhat cannibalize the margin for grey market dealers, because as prices go up, the margins for grey market dealers will get squeezed tighter and tighter. Well, that's not all true. It's actually only true if the price of the grey market watches stays the same or goes down. That would squeeze the profit margin for someone like myself. But actually what happens is the retail price goes up, the grey market price goes up, and actually what you see is just a parallel price increase, and there's always a margin for watch businesses. If you own a watch right now that you bought 8, 9, 10 years ago, that asset is probably worth more than what you paid for it back then. If you're looking to buy a watch right now, you're just going to have to pay what it's worth in today's money. And I think that's a summary of this video. If you bought something in the past, it's probably worth more money right now as an asset, and you probably should be thanking Rolex for increasing their prices every year. If you haven't bought a watch yet from Rolex directly, then you probably hate Rolex because the thing you want to buy is more expensive. Some advice, buy the thing sooner and wait 10 years and hope for the best. But yeah, if you want to buy or sell a watch, please do get in touch, WhatsApp, Instagram, or email. I'll be happy to speak to you. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.